From our free daily newsletter, the latest from podnews.net with Spots Now. How well does podcast advertising work? Podcast promos are a good example. Nearly 3 in 5 new listeners who find a new podcast through podcast promos return to listen to more episodes. That's detailed in Magellan AI's first ever podcast measurement benchmark report covering podcast campaigns from Q1. It shows an average response rate of 2.29%, and almost 10% of those who visited a website converted to a sales lead. Spots Now Intelligence is now available from Claude and ChatGPT. Any MCP-compatible assistant can now connect to live data on 61,000 shows, sponsors, brand spend, lookalikes, fill rates, and full media plans. And as a Pod News reader, you can get your first month free. There's more details in our show notes and our newsletter at podnews.net. PodCrisp is a new AI podcast post-production tool offering transcripts, show notes, chapters and social clips. It's been built by an indie founder from China and is significantly cheaper than tools like CastMagic or Capsho. There's a free tier on the website. I turned my podcast into a video game, says Matt Medeiros. Agency Action Replay is quite fun, and it explains the premise of the podcast well. It uses the show's RSS feed, including the transcript, to automatically make a new level of the game every week. Which are the biggest car podcasts? Car Curious is tracking hundreds of shows to track exactly what's going on in the space. We learn that the 4th biggest show by episode count is in Spanish, and that EV news is quite different from the rest of automotive. And Audion is now IAB Podcast Measurement Guidelines version 2.2 compliant and was certified last Thursday. It's a Monday, so time for some tech stuff. An open source podcast player, AntennaPod, has sponsored a set of improved features in Weblate, a translation platform. This is what community-funded open source should look like, they say. Users support an app, and the app improves the entire open source ecosystem. Ryan Williams, who is behind the Car Curious Automotive podcast deep dive that we've mentioned earlier, is proposing a podcast annotation format, naming an entity or topic when it appears and content surrounding it. It could add information like images and more. A new law in the state of New York is to ban stealth crawlers. They're bots that hide their identity. If approved by the state governor, the bots will have to disclose when they access a news organization's website, and they do that by using a valid and accurate user agent string. The New York Stealth Crawler Prohibition Act looks from first reading to cover podcasters, as long as they have at least 1,000 active listeners in New York, and as long as they perform a public information function. Inaccurate user agent strings are used by many bots to hide their identity when they download podcasts or do other things. New signups to our sister site, the Podcast Business Journal, appear to have come from a number of browsers that were last updated over a decade ago. A similar bill has also been tabled by a UK Member of Parliament. The Automated Online Software Access and Transparency Bill has no chance of becoming law, however. And Listen Notes has launched a skill for AI coding agents to build with the company's paid-for API. In People News, Cody Kleitz has been promoted to Vice President of Sales at Amplitude Media Partners. John Donahue told us Cody has been instrumental to AMP's success over the past few years. And in podcast news, in Podbiz this week, the guest is Stella Young, co-host of This Is TV Now.
My biggest thing is I would overpromise and get so excited and passionate about the idea or the art or this person being, I would go way overboard. There'd be a wellness celebrity that wanted to do something. And I'd be like, well, why don't we do this interesting artistic? And I never thought about the money as much as I should have. Owning your own company means, yes, the creative side, but you also have to think about the money.
You can find Podbiz wherever you found this podcast. Radio Atlantic expands from today with a second weekly episode and a new co-host, Adam Harris, who's joining Hannah Rosin. Expect a new Monday morning video episode focusing on the story that sets the agenda for the week ahead. It'll be on YouTube and podcast platforms. Imagine a time when the United States was split in two and then had to put itself back together. It was a time of chaos and sometimes violence, as millions of people fought for the right to become citizens. This was Reconstruction, the era following the Civil War, when Americans ended slavery and expanded voting rights. But many people consider the promise of Reconstruction unfulfilled. Reconstruction, the Unfinished Promise, hosted by Malcolm Gladwell and featuring Barack Obama, tells the story of this era. And this podcast is sponsored by Spots Now. Get Spots Now's Claude and ChatGPT connector free for a month. Ask your AI anything about podcast advertising in plain language right inside Claude or ChatGPT, designed from the ground up for podcast advertising workflows and strategic sales and buying questions to give you a competitive advantage. You can connect free in 60 seconds at spotsnow.io/intelligence, or you can click the link in our show notes. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe for free, we're at podnews.net.